Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be interesting. So let's jump in.
What if men could get pregnant? Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow. You're a man and you're pregnant. Not someone else. You, your body, your responsibility. For 9 months. Every morning sickness, every body change, every pain, every risk, every medical decision. All yours. And here's the thing. This isn't about biology. This is about empathy, about understanding, about asking one simple question. If men could get pregnant, would the world be different? Would healthcare change overnight? Would workplace policies suddenly shift? Would reproductive rights look completely different? Today, we're exploring every angle of this scenario. The medical reality, the social transformation, the political earthquake, the relationship dynamics. Everything. Some of this will make you uncomfortable. Good. That's the point. Because whether you're male or female, by the end of this video, you'll understand something you didn't before. Let's begin with what would actually happen to the male body. Chapter 1. The biology. What would actually happen? First, let's address the science. Could men biologically get pregnant? Not naturally. No. Male anatomy doesn't have a uterus, ovaries, or the hormonal system required for pregnancy. But here's what's interesting. We're closer to this being possible than you might think. Medical science has already achieved ectopic pregnancies in research settings, embryos implanting outside the uterus. And theoretically, with enough medical intervention, a fertilized embryo could be implanted in a male body. It would require massive hormone supplementation. Estrogen, progesterone, the entire hormonal cocktail that prepares the body for pregnancy. The male body would have to be artificially transformed into a pregnancy-capable state. But let's suspend disbelief for this scenario. Let's say tomorrow, through some medical breakthrough or hypothetical situation, men could get pregnant naturally. What would happen? First, the physical changes. And they're more extreme than most men realize. Your hormone levels would shift dramatically. Testosterone would drop. Estrogen and progesterone would flood your system. This isn't just feeling different. This is a complete chemical reorganization of your body. You'd experience breast development, tissue growth, sensitivity. Your chest would prepare to potentially breastfeed. This isn't optional. It's biological necessity. Your body's shape would change. Weight gain of 25 to 35 pounds on average. Your center of gravity shifts. Your posture changes. Your organs get compressed as the pregnancy grows. Your lungs have less room to expand. Your bladder gets squeezed constantly. Morning sickness wouldn't just be morning. It could be all day, every day for months. Nausea so severe you can't work, can't eat, can't function. And there's no cure. You just endure it. Then there's the pain. Back pain from carrying extra weight in front. Hip pain as your pelvis literally widens to prepare for birth. Leg cramps, swelling. Gestational diabetes risk, high blood pressure risk, preeclampsia risk, which can be fatal. And at the end, labor. Contractions that some describe as the worst pain humanly possible. For hours, sometimes days. And then either vaginal birth, which let's be honest, male anatomy isn't designed for, or cesarean section, which is major abdominal surgery. Recovery takes months. Your body is permanently changed. Stretched skin, weakened core muscles, potential surgical scars. Long-term health risks. This is the biological reality that millions of women experience. But most men have never truly considered what this means. Because it's not their body, it's not their risk, it's not their reality. Until now. In this scenario, it is. So the first question becomes, if this was your body, your risk, your health on the line, how would that change your perspective? Chapter 2, the first trimester, career and workplace. You're 1 month pregnant. You just found out, and you're a man. Now you have to tell your employer. Let's talk about what would actually happen in the workplace if men got pregnant. Because this is where things get really interesting. Currently, in many countries, pregnancy discrimination is technically illegal. But it happens constantly. Women report being passed over for promotions, being quietly pushed out, being seen as less committed once they're pregnant. But if men got pregnant, would this suddenly become a priority? Let's explore this. You're a male executive, successful career. You've worked hard for years. Now you're pregnant. Do you tell your boss immediately? Do you wait? You're exhausted. The first trimester hormone surge is hitting you hard. You're nauseous constantly. You can barely focus in meetings. Your performance is slipping. But you're afraid to say why, because what if they see you differently? Here's what's interesting. Studies show that when men take parental leave, even now without pregnancy, they often face career penalties. They're seen as less committed, less ambitious, not serious about their careers. Now imagine that multiplied by pregnancy itself. 9 months of visible physical change, medical appointments, potential complications requiring time off, paternity leave? Or would we even need new terminology? But here's where it gets controversial. If men could get pregnant, would workplace accommodations suddenly appear overnight? Paid parental leave, which many countries still don't mandate, would likely become law immediately. Flexible work arrangements would become standard. Workplace discrimination would be enforced aggressively. Why? Because suddenly, it's not just a women's issue. It's everyone's issue. It's your brother's issue, your son's issue, your own potential issue. And that reveals something uncomfortable about how society values problems. When it affects men directly, it gets solved faster. Not always, but often. Current maternity leave in the United States? 0 weeks federally mandated paid leave. Meanwhile, nearly every other developed nation offers months of paid leave. Why hasn't this changed? Some argue it's because the people making laws, predominantly men, don't personally face this consequence. But in our scenario, they would. And laws would likely change rapidly. Is that fair? Is that right? No, but it's probably accurate. Chapter 3, the second trimester, relationships and dating. You're now visibly pregnant, as a man. Let's talk about how this changes relationships and dating. If you're in a committed relationship, this creates an entirely new dynamic. Traditionally, when a woman gets pregnant, the male partner is the support system. He doesn't experience the physical burden. He can be empathetic, but he doesn't truly feel it. But now, both partners could potentially get pregnant. That changes the conversation entirely. Who gets pregnant? Do you take turns? Do you decide based on career timing? Health? Age? This becomes a negotiation that currently doesn't exist. And what about the emotional dynamics? Currently, pregnant women often report feeling alone in the experience. Their partner tries to understand, but can't truly know what it feels like. The physical isolation, the body changes, the fear. But if both partners could experience it, that shared understanding could strengthen relationships. Or it could create resentment if one partner refuses to ever experience it. I carried our first child, now it's your turn. That becomes a legitimate conversation. Now let's talk about dating. You're a single man, you're pregnant. How does this change the dating landscape? Currently, pregnant women face stigma in dating. They're often seen as baggage. Their dating options narrow. They face judgment. Would pregnant men face the same stigma? Or would it be different? Here's a controversial thought. Society might actually be more sympathetic to pregnant men than pregnant women. Why? Because it would be seen as unusual, novel, interesting, whereas pregnant women are common and therefore, sadly, often devalued. This double standard would reveal itself immediately. A pregnant man on a dating app might get curiosity matches. Wow, that's unique. A pregnant woman gets passed over. Too much responsibility. Is this fair? Absolutely not. But it would expose the deep-seated biases we have about pregnancy, gender, and value. And then there's the question of attraction. Physical attraction. Would men still be considered attractive while pregnant? Would society's beauty standards shift? Currently, pregnancy is sometimes fetishized, sometimes seen as unattractive, depending on cultural context, but it's almost always gendered. Pregnancy glow is celebrated, but also pregnant bodies are desexualized. If men got pregnant, would we see pregnant male models? Pregnant men in advertising? Would it be normalized, or would it be hidden? The answer reveals how comfortable we are with male vulnerability, with male bodies changing in ways they can't control, with men being in traditionally feminine positions. And for many people, that's deeply uncomfortable. Chapter 4, the third trimester, medical care and rights. You're now in your third trimester. The baby is almost here. And this is where things get politically explosive. Let's talk about reproductive rights, healthcare access, bodily autonomy. Currently, reproductive rights are heavily debated. Abortion access, birth control, pregnancy healthcare. These are contentious political issues. But here's the critical question. If men could get pregnant, would these debates exist in the same way? Let's explore both sides fairly, because this is complex. The argument that things would change. Some argue that if men faced unwanted pregnancies, abortion access would be immediate, legal, and free. Why? Because bodily autonomy would suddenly be understood viscerally. The horror of being forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy would be immediately obvious to lawmakers, who are predominantly male. Birth control would be free, easily accessible, and highly effective. Male birth control pills would have been invented decades ago and perfected. Why? Because preventing pregnancy would be a male priority, not just a female burden. Pregnancy healthcare would be excellent, covered by insurance and prioritized. Maternal mortality rates, currently shockingly high in some developed nations, would drop immediately. Why? Because it would be affecting sons, brothers, fathers. This argument suggests that many reproductive issues persist because they disproportionately affect women, and society hasn't prioritized women's health equally. The counter-argument. Others argue this is unfair and incorrect. They point out that many men do support reproductive rights, healthcare access, and bodily autonomy. That this isn't a men don't care issue, but a complex political, religious, and ethical debate. They argue that even if men could get pregnant, the same ethical questions would exist. When does life begin? What rights does the fetus have? How do we balance autonomy with other considerations? These are legitimate philosophical questions that wouldn't disappear just because men experienced pregnancy. The balanced reality. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Some aspects would almost certainly change, like paid leave and healthcare access, because these are policy issues that solve logistical problems. But the deeper ethical debates might persist because they're rooted in fundamental worldviews about life, rights, and morality. What would definitely change is the conversation itself. It would no longer be possible to dismiss pregnancy-related issues as women's problems. They'd be everyone's problems. And that would force society to take them more seriously. Let's get specific about healthcare. Currently, maternal mortality rates in the United States are higher than in many other developed nations. Black women face maternal mortality rates 3 to 4 times higher than white women. This is a healthcare crisis that hasn't been adequately addressed. If men, particularly white men who hold significant political power, faced pregnancy risks, would this crisis be solved immediately? Many believe yes, because suddenly it wouldn't be someone else's problem. It would be personal. Pregnancy complications would be researched better, funding would increase, hospital protocols would improve, not because suddenly we'd care more about human life, but because the lives at risk would be valued differently by those in power. Is this cynical? Maybe. But it's also probably accurate based on how healthcare funding and research priorities have historically worked. So here's the truth. If men could get pregnant, some things would change overnight. Laws would change. Policies would change. Workplace rules would change. Healthcare priorities would shift completely. But the most dangerous part isn't politics. It's what happens next. Because pregnancy doesn't end with debate. It ends with delivery. And a male body was never designed for what comes after this. In the final months, the risks multiply. The pain intensifies. And one decision can mean life or death. So when the moment finally arrives, when a man has to give birth, what happens next changes the world forever.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. See you.